Okay, so maybe we should start.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Huh?
Dance intro?
Yes. Hi, I'm Amy, and welcome to A-Star Reads. This is the wonderful, I don't know which way she's going to be when the video pops up. This is the wonderful Shell. She's my fantastic, loving friend who so kindly offered to read The Realm of the Elderlings with me. And it sounds like it's starting to get better.
I agree.
Okay,
it's starting to get better.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because you're along for the ride, whether you like it or
whether ships are coming or not.
I'm so excited about the ships. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I know you're not, but I am. I'm really excited. In this video, we are going to talk about Words Like Coins, which is the 1.5 35-page story that sort of supplements The Realm of the Elderlings, but is not necessary for the series, I don't think. We're also going to be talking about The Royal Assassin. All right, so we're going to discuss Words Like Coins first, and we'll give a brief, it's such a short story. There's not much we can say about it, but we can kind of give you an idea of what it's about. What's it about, Shell?
It's a short story about a woman on a farm with her sister-in-law. The men are out trying to get a work because of, what is it, a drought?
Yeah, there's a drought in Tilth.
And the plants aren't growing so the men essentially went off to try to find work to feed their family, while the woman and her sister-in-law, who's very pregnant, are at home trying to keep things afloat, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's the little short story about them and some Pexies. And that's really, it's really hard to give a synopsis of that one.
Yeah, I know it is, because it is really short. And it's interesting to learn about the Pexies, though, because I did read, there was one mention of Pexies in Royal Assassin. I was like, oh, there's Pexies. I wonder if we're going to see more Pexies in the future, or if this was just a little story to talk about Pexies, just like a fun little one-off short story.
I don't know.
It's a cute story. I highly recommend it. We both gave it really high ratings.
I gave it 5 stars.
Yeah, and I gave it 4.75, so pretty darn close. It's kind of hard to get a hold of. So what was the way that you got a hold of it, Shell?
It was really easy for me. I got it on Kindle, so on Amazon for like $2.99, I think.
Is it just the story of that story?
Yeah.
So that's a good resource. And then I picked it up from the library, but it was in a bind-up called A Fantasy Medley.
I loved Words Like Coins. It was very short, but she packed so much into it, and it was fascinating.
You end with this great moralistic message. You like the characters, not necessarily like them in the sense that they're likable, but there's something more interesting about these characters than I felt like were the characters in The Willful Princess, to me.
Yeah.
You're right. 35 pages of just pure pleasure.
Right.
And it was fun to learn about Pexies. It was fun to learn about this other type of mythical creature.
We were introduced to a new form of magic.
Yes, Hedwig. Yes, and that was really valuable because in the beginning of this book, we go over the different forms of magic, which answered all our questions from the last video you and I had. It was so funny because when I was reading the first, not even chapter, it's like the prologue, I was like, oh, look, we just answered every single question we had. It was perfect.
I was laughing so hard as I read it.
I was too, and I so wanted to talk to you at that moment because I wanted to be like, Shell, look at that. Shell, look, they mentioned that. Shell, look, we talked about this.
I know. It was super funny.
So that shows me that you and I just have great brains and know how to think critically about books. And we're modest.
Oh, man, I was cracking up.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But yes, Hedwiges. So in the story, the main character, she was supposed to be a hedge witch, but the person who was supposed to train her ended up dying.
She was like not really training her. She was using her as a servant.
That's right.
And then she ended up, I think, dying.
Wow, for such a short story, I've already forgotten so much. like a sieve.
So yeah, she wanted to learn, but it was like this crotchety old hedge witch, and she just really wanted to use her as a slave instead of actually teach her anything.
I do remember that now.
Yeah. And so she taught her a little bit of the basic stuff, and then she ended up dying, I think. And so she was an unsuccessfully trained hedge witch.
So what they do is they create these like
Charms,
right? And then the charm has power, and if you make the charm incorrectly, it can go really badly. Which that was creepy. Like that was cool, but kind of creepy that, I would think you just make it wrong and it's inactive, but no, if you make it wrong, it does completely crazy things. I thought that was fascinating.
It was really cool. And not only that, but that the Pixies use the same form of magic, like as a hedge witch. I loved her. I don't even remember her name, but she was so cool. I loved her.
She was really cool. I really liked this story so much. I want a series about Pixies now. Like, I'm totally down for that. Robin Hobb, Pixies series. Let's get on it.
It's pretty fascinating. We covered that 35-page book very well.
I think so. I think that is about all we can say about Words with Coins. Just read it. It's really cute. It's really, really good. It is absolutely a strength of Robin Hobb. I know she's really good at making long books, but she's actually really good at making short stories as well. There's absolutely no way we can make this spoiler free because you had to have read the first book. But can we make the synopsis of the second book spoiler free for people who have read the first but haven't read the second one yet?
Oh, we can try. I'm not really great at synopsises.
Yeah.
My synopsis would be, this is Fitz's life after the first book.
You're right. You're not really great at synopsis.
It's true.
Okay, so when we leave Fitz off, he almost died from the poison, and he's really ill, and he's still in, what is the name of that place?
The
Mountain Land?
Mountain Kingdom.
It's called like, it starts with a J.
Start with a J?
Yeah.
Janier or something like that?
Jump or something like that? Jumpy. In the city that's in the mountains. He's still there, and he's actually contemplating never leaving. But things happen, and he does have to go back to Buckkeep eventually. When he goes back to Buckkeep, it's kind of, you're back in all the same issues before.
I wouldn't say that, because when he gets back, the king is ill.
What I mean by it's the same is that he still has a whole bunch of problems that he faces, and he's constantly getting shit on, and he's got so many horrible things happening to him constantly, and the people around him, the people he cares about, and he's always alone. Even when he has loved ones, he still ends up being alone. So I mean, you're right, Shell. It's Fitz's life continued.
I told you it was an accurate description.
All the things you remember about Fitz from the first book and how difficult his situation were, just at a different point of his life and with slightly different characters in there. Not even that much different, but no Galen anymore, thank goodness. But Galen's legacy has been left through his horrible, man, we are so bad with words today. What is the name of his coterie? So his legacy has been left through his coterie, because they're still there. Celine and Will and...
Wow. I did not remember any of their names. Go you! Yay!
He's trying to secure the love of his life, Molly. He's trying to take care of the king, because like you said, the king is ill when he gets back to Buckkeep, and the king is not getting better. And so there's the fear of the king dying and then Regal kind of trying to take over things, because Verity still has a hard time securing the love of the kingdom. Plus, the Red Ship Raiders. Thank you. The Red Ship Raiders are
still attacking.
Yeah. This is like Mad Libs. Yeah, they're still attacking, and it's getting worse and worse. We kind of discussed the Elderlings in the very beginning of this book, and Verity wants to go and seek the Elderlings' help. That's kind of then where the story it starts going. The meat of the story starts going.
Yeah.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because that's when everything just
so bad. Yeah. Okay, so that's as much of a spoiler-free synopsis as I can give for this. And it's probably not very great, but it is one of those stories that is very continuous and there's constantly things going on. There's constantly things going on in here. It's not like there are huge events. There are huge events, but I feel like it's like one event that falls into another, that falls into, and then everything is kind of intertwined. So, what did you think? What did you think?
I enjoyed it a lot more than the first one. I think I gave it 4 stars. I don't remember why. But I know I gave it 4 stars. I liked it a lot better because we finally got the world building that she was doing so much of in the first book kind of taken care of. This one was a lot more action-packed. I had a hard time putting it down a lot of times.
And you stay up till reading?
I was actually pretty good. For me, I was pretty good. No crazy nights, but it was definitely hard to put down. I was really enjoying it as much as you can when it's still sad.
So one of the things we did mention at the beginning of this video was you and I had a ton of questions within the first video, and all of a sudden, in the very first chapter, prologue, all of our questions were answered.
Not all.
Okay, a good portion of our questions were answered. What were some of those things? Let's just recap really quickly.
You were curious about the different magics. And that was the first thing that you open up the book on, where he literally just lists all of the different magics.
I know. She left me like absolutely no question. I'd say she meaning Robin Hobb. She absolutely anticipated my question because she gave us every single type of magic. And actually later on, she talked about the difference between the wit and skill and how even they can kind of overlap or build on top of each other, which way I was like, yes, this is what I wanted to know. I was so excited about that because, you know, I was so confused between, oh shit. There was a dog fight. Luckily, Miss Lucy didn't get hurt. Okay, what were we talking about?
They answered your question about the skill and the wit overlapping.
Yeah, I was really excited about that because I really wasn't sure. I think because Fitz was struggling so hard with the skill, I was wondering if maybe he just never had the skill and if his version of the wit was kind of taking over in a way. So we learned from this that that's not the case. And I was really excited that she answered all my questions. Like it was like someone told Robin Hobb in arrears that I asked all these questions and she answered them. What was another part that we questioned?
I don't remember what we questioned. We talked about wanting to see more of the Fool and wanting to know where he came from.
And that was the thing I texted you. I texted you because I was like, Fool shows up right when we start the story.
And then we learned where he came from. We learned more about him. He was a bigger part of this story.
We talked about Burrich. You were really frustrated with Burrich in the last book because he was not being true to who he was as someone who has the wit, which...
Oh, there was a question. One of your questions was, does he have the wit?
Yeah, and we find out that he does have the wit, and he just refuses to actively use the wit. We know in this book that he uses the wit. You know, even unintentionally, he uses the wit. All the dogs and animals around him are aware that he has the wit.
What do they call him again? Do you remember what his name was?
Head of the pack.
It was so cool.
Now, there were times when he was really struggling in this. Did you have a problem with Burrich during this book?
No, and if I did have a problem with it, totally cured by the end.
Oh, the ending. I cried. I cried, Shell.
I think I did too.
That very last sentence.
It was a great book.
You're not dead, son. You're not dead. I was like, oh. What'd you think of Fitz's relationship with Molly?
I think that's why I didn't give it a 5. I am not overly fond of their relationship for multiple reasons.
Why? Why, Shell? Do tell.
I don't think it's a problem with her and romance because I think she did a good job with Verity and his wife. I don't feel it for Molly and Fitz. Like, I don't feel where the love is coming from. Like, all of a sudden, his childhood friend, now she's like the love of his life. And it just doesn't feel real, I guess.
Not the best chemistry.
And I get that she's upset with him for lying, or, you know, lies of omission. But it just all seems so kind of wishy, like young kids love. I
mean, Fitz is still, 16 years old or something like that here, though. Isn't he 16, 17? He's really young.
I think he's 18 by the time he's talking about marriage and whatnot.
Are you sure? Because I know in the last book, I thought he was like 17, 18, but he was actually only 15, 16.
This book traveled a decent period. And I think by the time they're talking about marriage and whatnot, and having their secret affair, I think he's around 18.
Still really young, though.
Really young.
Maturity-wise, still very young.
And they both are. They're both pretty immature about the relationship. It's cute. He's sweet. He loves her. He wants to marry her. They're so impractical and ridiculous about it.
It's just that it's not going to work out. It just can't work out. There's just no way.
So, spoiler question.
Spoiler question? Okay.
When she leaves, do you think there's another man, or do you think she's pregnant?
Oh, she's pregnant. Absolutely, she's pregnant. Yeah, no. The way she words it, I'm like, this girl's pregnant. I'm like surprised that he didn't actually question that at all, especially because Birch was hinting about the herbs she was asking about. Birch wanted to tell Fitz that she was asking about the herbs that would help with morning sickness. And
I didn't catch that. I did not catch that.
Yes.
I didn't catch that.
Let me find that. Because I was like, why didn't you ask?
I thought he was talking about the birth control medicine.
The hint was there that she was asking about a different type of herb. She wouldn't ask Patience and Lacey for these herbs, even though Patience and Lacey would definitely have them. So she asks Birch, and Birch is like willing Fitz to ask him, and he doesn't.
I totally didn't get that. I just figured it was more of the birth control herbs, and he was talking again about them sleeping together or hinting at that. I did not catch that it was morning sickness.
No,
but when she was talking to him, I was like, she's totally pregnant.
She totally is. Which there's another little wrench to add into this whole thing. Because then part of me was like, I like celerity for him. To be honest, I
kind of did too.
Yeah, I know that he was pushing against that, but once you start getting to know her personality or character, I'm kind of like, I liked her form. I liked her personality better for him. I think that she would make a better partner. And I mean, nobody is going to make him a great partner, though, because he's an assassin. There's a lot that he has to conceal, and there's a lot of danger that he could put the people that he cares about in. If he has to commit his life to the king, the best person for him to marry is someone like Celerity, and I actually like her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's another thing. There's no real relationship between them. It's just, I love you, let's have sex. I love you, let's have sex. But there's no long conversations about what they want from life. There's no.
Yeah, it seems very physical. Well, and it does feel very juvenile. Like the relationship does feel very young. And that's part of the problem, is they're going to grow older, and that's not enough to sustain a relationship. And the thing is both of them are just desperate for attention and love, because she's desperate because of her hardships in her childhood, and he's desperate because he's just never had anybody who could be there for him. He's had people, but he doesn't recognize he's had people.
So I'm not overly fond of her or their relationship.
Poor Molly.
That she fell for Regal's story, despite what Wit said. Like, no trust, no nothing. And she just totally falls for his charm, which makes me question her intelligence.
Yeah, I was really pissed, not only when she fell for Regal's bullshit, but when the cook did, because I really liked the cook until she was saying all that horrible stuff, and I was like, no! And then it was mostly because it was like the turning point with Regal, where everybody was backing Regal, and it was just like this added like punch in the face. I was like, no, I can't stand Regal so much. As horrible and as icky as he is, because he's icky, and people do see it, because people do comment on it. Even people that have disliked him to begin with say like, oh, he is just kind of sleazy or icky and stuff, and yet they still fall for him in the end. And I just don't understand it.
Well, except for the coastal duckies.
I forgot we're calling them duckies. Even then, once they found out that Fitz is witted, they backed Regal.
But they tried not to.
They never had that conversation with Fitz. I know Regal wouldn't really let them, but they could have. They could have pressed their point. They didn't try hard enough, in my opinion.
Maybe. I don't know. I felt they didn't believe Regal.
Regal's defense of Fitz being witted is that he brings in this little girl who may have seen him be a wolf one second and a guy the next. Like, that's his whole defense. And then they're willing to completely give over Buckkeep because of what one little girl said in the morning when she was going out and getting water from the well. Like,
well, we already knew that there's a lot of fear and hatred around the wit.
That just pisses me off, though.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, who do you hate more now, Galen or Regal?
Oh, Regal, absolutely. Galen's dead. I could care less about him now. Although Galen's the one that made his coterie leech on to the king. They leached on to King Shrewd, and they're sucking the life out of him for the last however long they've been doing it, since Galen, I guess, was dead. It's unbelievable. And of course, all everybody sees is that Fitz touches the king and then he's dead. So everybody thinks that Fitz is the one that causes to happen. And with all these things we're reading, all this stuff about Regal, how does nobody see this? How is Regal still allowed to get away with all this stuff?
He is a character.
This was one of those books that was really hard to read because the whole time I'm cringing on the inside. The whole time, Shell. I mean, I was cringing and like sick to my stomach because of Regal. Because of what he was able to get away with and the fact that he just continuously got away with it. And it was like, there was no questioning it. There was no, I don't know, it just made me so frustrated the whole time. Mm-hmm. And that being said, I loved it. It was really good, but I was so frustrated.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting.
And Verity goes off to try and get the Elderlings, and I understand why he's doing that. But then he goes off, and we're stuck with this horrible person who just starts selling everything off. Is trying to move the king and the queen outside of Buckkeep. Like, all this stuff was, so hard.
So, do you think she survived? The queen.
What happened?
She was supposed to go with Birch, but then something happened and he couldn't go. And then Regal, I think, tells him that she was killed. Right. But I think there's some question about that. It didn't sound like it was a for sure thing that she was killed.
Right, because Birch or Shade, one of them knew that it was a trap. And knew that Regal knew somehow. I don't know how they knew that Regal knew, but they knew, and that's why Birch had him meet her elsewhere, or like they went elsewhere. They didn't actually meet the horses. Remember, Birch told Night Eyes, the wolf, to meet me here instead. I know, it's so sweet. Yeah, but Birch told Night Eyes, meet me here instead, as opposed to the place they were supposed to originally meet with the horses. So they end up meeting that other spot, and they take Birch and Fitz's horses instead of the original litter and everything. What I didn't understand was then how did Birch know that the king was going to die right then and didn't have to set up the litter and those horses to pull the king? So at that point where they met elsewhere with the two horses was just enough for the fool and for the queen to take off with. How did he know to be prepared that way?
I don't know.
So I think they got away because somehow they were tipped off to the fact that their secret was known by Regal.
Fitz doesn't know, right?
No, Fitz doesn't know
if they made it or not.
The only way he finds out is because Night Eyes recalls for him that Birch wanted him to meet him elsewhere.
That's it. Right. So it's a question of what happened still.
Yeah. Okay. And why. We still don't really know that at all because things happen so quickly in this.
But the fool went with her, right?
Yes. Yeah. So she and the fool left.
Who else? Is Shade with Birch in the end?
Yeah, Shade is with Birch when they dig up Fitz's body.
Major spoiler alert right there.
Well, I mean, we're already past that.
Oh man. Yeah, I cried.
Yeah.
That was a pretty rough ending, but really awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was really awesome. And I'm curious to see where it's going to go from here, because they can't exactly go back to Buckkeep. Fitz can't really be seen by the people who know him at this point, because he's dead.
He's planning on following after Verity, right?
Yeah, he is. Verity and, well, I guess so. Will it be him and Shade and Birch? So is Birch and Shade just going to leave Buckkeep?
I imagine Birch will go with him, but Shade might stick around to keep an eye on Regal. I don't know if Shade would go too.
I would hate that job.
Somebody's got to undermine Regal, right?
Yeah, and I guess the good thing about that is Regal still doesn't know that Shade is alive.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't know a lot of shit.
That coterie of Selene and, they were evil little. I just wanted to.
But at least 2 of the 3 are gone, right?
Yes. Will is still alive. Will is still alive. Fitz almost killed Will, but did not succeed in that. And those guys need to go because they're bad. They're bad. Let's predict. What do we think is going to happen in the next book?
I think he's going to go to the realm of the Elderlings.
Fitz is going to try and follow Verity. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
I think Fitz is going to be crucial in the Elderlings' participation.
I think they're not going to just go with Verity asking them. Fitz will be necessary for them to participate.
I think so.
I wonder if it has anything to do with the wit.
Maybe. Well, that would make sense because that's the only thing that makes him different. And then Verity. They're both royal-ish. I have a feeling that wit's going to be crucial to that. I'm curious as to whether Verity's going to make it. I know that I've heard that she's not necessarily a happy writer, but I would really like to see the king and queen, make it work.
That's the romance Shell wants. Shell loves Verity and Ketrican.
I do. I mean, it took him quite a while to realize that she liked him, and he was a little bit dumb about it for quite a while. I feel like they had more of a relationship. I mean, yeah, they're married, but they had more of a connection than Fitz and Molly.
I thought it was interesting that she made Fitz kind of have little fluttering feelings about her every time Verity. I was like, oh no.
I know. How awkward would that be?
Really awkward. Oh no, that is not healthy.
Oh, I know. That whole connection thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so sweet that they finally kind of got to be together. And then he goes off. And I'm like, I wonder.
He should have taken her with him. I think he should have sent Fitz from the get-go.
That's exactly what I thought was going to happen, was that he was going to send Fitz.
Yeah. I would have done that, especially because he could do the skill through Fitz, so he could be there along the way with Fitz. Verity could talk to the Elderlings through Fitz, and then at least Verity's still there. He's still maintaining this budding relationship with his wife, which is important to make sure he fosters that relationship because it's still pretty fresh. And his dad is ill. He shouldn't be leaving when his father is so ill. He shouldn't be leaving Regal because he knows Regal's not trustworthy. This whole idea of Verity going off to find the Elderlings is the stupidest idea I've ever. Let me tell you how I feel.
I agree. No, I totally agree.
And Birch should have gone. It should have been the 2 of them. And then I think we could have avoided a lot of this.
Totally agree. So I kind of wonder if Verity's going to make it or if the unborn child is going to be the next ruler.
Well, that'll take a while.
Yeah.
In the meantime, what's Regal going to do? I mean, he's going to screw everything up.
Well, it's not like they have much time. I mean, this all has to be resolved in this last book. At least as resolved as she plans on making it for us.
I mean, these characters will come back.
They do. They do come back. We still have the Red Ship Raiders. We still have to figure out what the White Ship is all about.
Yeah.
And
I got confused there for a minute. So is she implying that Will has something to do with the white ship?
I don't fully remember that. That part didn't stick with me.
I need to find that section. Even as my mouth and throat went dry with fear, a question hovered. Where had he been? Will, remember, Serene and the other one had been there at Buckkeep, but Will wasn't there. Will was sent away, but he was also sent away from his station on, he was stationed on one of the ships originally. So he was taken away from that ship, but Fitz was wondering where did he go? And it says, where had he been? Where had been so important to Regal that he had set Will upon it rather than using him to secure the crown? And then all of a sudden it says white ship. The answer came to me from deep within me, founded on a connection so deep I could not unearth it. But I did not doubt it. I looked at him, considering him in conjunction with the white ship. Right there it says that somehow Will is associated with the white ship, which means that Regal is associated with the white ship, which has something to do with the red ship raiders. Because I think the white ship is what does all the forging. At least that's the impression I got through reading this, is that the white ship always shows up whenever the forging happens. They take on the people from the town, and the forge seems to happen while they're on the ship. And that's when the white ship showed up. At that one point, Fitz was able to repel the guy that was on the magical guy that was on the white ship, and he fell into the water.
No clue whatsoever. Because as evil and stupid as Regal is, he still wants his power. None of his plans would include giving away the kingdom to the red ships.
The red ship raiders don't actually want anything. They never steal anything. They're just there to kill. And so maybe Regal's made some kind of connection with them. They get the pleasure of the kill, and he gets to scare the six duckies enough that they believe that Verity is a horrible king. And so, Regal will come and save the day, kind of thing.
I don't think he's smart enough.
He's done some things that I was surprised he's done. This whole leeching onto King Shrewd is pretty darn smart.
Yeah, but I don't think that was his idea. I would guess that would be more Galen.
I don't know. I think that he's surprised us a couple of times.
I don't know.
Don't underestimate Regal.
It's not that I underestimate him. You can't underestimate somebody who's got power and the desire to get power at any cost. You can't underestimate him. But I feel like he's so motivated by jealousy and pride and his own self-worth, all of that stuff. I mean, yeah, he's plotting away and he's getting away with it, but not because he's intelligent. Everybody who knows him knows what he's doing. The king's kind of blind to it, but Verity knows. Fitz knows. The fool knows. Anybody knows what he's doing. What I'm trying to say? He gets lucky and he uses a lot of...
He's an opportunist.
That's what I'm thinking of. He uses what's around him to do what he wants to do. But I don't know how much is really him plotting and how much is ooh, this is happening. Maybe I could do this.
Well, we're going to find out in the next book what relationship he has to the red ship raiders and the white ship.
I think it's much more likely that they approached him and they're using him as to anything else.
Yeah, I could see that. He's pretty idiotic. Here we go, underestimating him again, Jill. I hope something good happens. I know people are going to have to die.
I'm hoping this is more Wheel of Time and less Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I think it's probably in between. She isn't called a writer that writes sad things for nothing. She likes to torture her characters, is what I've heard. So we know that the six duckies fall. There's a fall of the six duckies. We know that this is going to lead to them falling apart.
The queen was so awesome in this book. Her going to the battlefield and everything like that. She was so awesome. I really
You want to be her, don't you? You want to be Ketrikin.
Not necessarily, but I really liked her.
Yeah, she does have a pretty rough life. I would want to be her either.
I just think they would make such excellent rulers, both of them together.
I think it's too late for that. I think that there's way too much anger within the six duckies and not enough respect for Verity. I just think it's too late. With Regal on the path that he's on. And the problem is that people from the Six Duckies have not.
I told you, it's so much funner calling them duckies.
It's just so ridiculous. Like, I hear myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. It's hard to keep a straight face. Okay. The people from the Six Duckies, they don't have any understanding of what actually is going on. So they're just building more and more resentment. They're not having an opportunity to get things clarified for them. And so I think that's a problem, because I think you're building that resentment, which is going to keep Verity from being someone that they could trust.
But if Verity brought back the Elderlings?
I don't know.
Well, what are the other options? Because Regal can't end with Regal being king. It just can't. I will not survive that.
Okay.
The only other option, and it would still kill me because if Verity and Ketrican were gone, I would be really, really sad. But the only other option that I can see working would be Fitz becoming the
regent.
Yeah. That's the only other thing I can see working would be for him to become the regent over Verity's son.
I think daughter. That's too predictable. I think that's way too predictable. That's what we will expect to happen.
No, I expect Verity and Ketrican to make it.
I don't think there's room for that anymore. I think it's too late. I'm going with Regal ends up. How can we got to continue the story on? It's not going to be pretty.
That's below not pretty. No.
Question. Will you continue on this series if Regal ends up president? That shows you my associations.
Yeah.
Regal ends up king.
It would have to be done really, really well for me to accept that. Like, the book would have to be like beyond 5 stars for me to be able to accept continuing with Regal as king.
Well, this may be one of the last videos you see Shell in.
So our predictions are, well, mine are that Fitz has to help with getting the Elderlings.
Because Verity dies.
No, that is not my...
You kind of alluded to that, Shell.
No, I just think he'll need his help.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay. Fitz will be crucial to getting the Elderlings' help. And I am praying that Ketrican and Verity make it to the end.
And my belief is that we're not going to end it up that prettily with a nice little bow on top. And I think that all hell's going to break loose and Regal's going to end up king and the Six Duckies are going to fall and we'll be set on another adventure through that ending.
So do you think the coastal duckies are going to be gone completely then, or that there's just going to be a schism between them?
Schism.
Well, I mean, I think
it's schism.
I think it's schism.
I think it's schism too.
I call it duckies though, so I couldn't.
Why would I ask you what it is? I think it's a schism though. I think
it's schism. Anyway.
I mean, I don't want Regal to be king. I definitely don't want that. Best case scenario, Verity and Ketrican come back and are king and queen of this kingdom, which I completely don't think is going to happen. Second, middle possibility is that Fitz ends up the regent for baby Verity Ketrican. I think that's too obvious. What's that leave?
If the schism solidifies, then maybe there'll be rulers of both areas.
Well, see, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Regal will be the leader of the inland duckies, and Fitz will be the leader of the coastal duckies.
Interesting. I can see him being regent because it's a temporary position. I don't think he'd want or allow himself to be a ruler.
When push comes to shove, he would be king if he had to be, because he cares about what happens to the kingdom. And if Regal was going to be a competing kingdom, he will do whatever he can to make sure things get righted.
That's why I like him. That's why I like him for a regent. You don't think Ketrigan's going to make it? I get it.
I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know. Unfortunately, my brain is like, what's the worst that can happen?
It's been rough, but nobody important has died yet.
And that's kind of been the surprising thing, because not like George R.R. Martin.
That's why I like not Game of Thrones level.
Because he likes to kill everybody.
So no one's died yet.
You're right. But there's still time. Well, thank you so much, Shell, for this wonderful conversation. I can't wait to see what happens next. And for us to get some kind of conclusion.
I'm very interested to see which one of us is right. You know what? I read so much faster than you. I will know first.
Well, with that charming comment, give us a thumbs up if you approve of Shell's behavior. Subscribe so you can weigh in on our next conversation. And please, in the comment section down below, let us know what you think and let us know your thoughts and comments on this, because, you know, we're just kind of throwing out what we feel based on this book. But I'd like to hear some of your ideas, or if, you know, you enjoyed this second book, if you were frustrated with certain things, what your predictions are for the third book. Give it all to us, unless you actually know what happened in the third book. In that case, don't give us your predictions, because that wouldn't be fair. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later.